Hello and welcome to the Unlock Your Life Purpose Summit. I am your host, Lorna Moon, and today we have a very special guest. His name is Roger Crawford. Roger has the distinguishment of being the first and only person in American history to be a U.S. professional tennis athlete and play Division I sports and have a serious disability. He's a speaker, an author, and still a certified tennis professional. He also has a weekly program on the Tennis Channel. So let's welcome Roger.
Hi, Lorna. How are
Hi,
you?
Roger. So great to see you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's such a pleasure to have you and to get to share in hearing your insights. It's very exciting.
Thank you.
So people are sitting here going, what is Roger? Roger doesn't have a disability. He looks perfectly normal. He's got a tennis racket behind him. What are y'all talking about, Roger, and disabilities? And what's this have to do with anything? So I'm going to let Roger share his story, his very exciting story, and how he came to live his purpose.
Well, thank you, Lorna. I really like that title about living your purpose. I think that's so powerful because I think everybody has a purpose. And so I'm thrilled to be part of this. Yeah, you mentioned having a physical challenge. It affects all four of my limbs from the elbows down and from the knees down. Like people watching can see my hands. And then I wear an artificial leg on my left leg, and I have 3 toes on my right foot. But I did get involved in tennis at a pretty young age. I was really fortunate because I had parents that brought me up with the philosophy that you don't live in Pity City. That was one of the things I heard growing up. And the message was pretty clear. It was like, focus in on what you can do, not what you can't do. Don't let this become a limitation. And so growing up with that philosophy was incredibly helpful for me. The idea that there weren't going to be any excuses. Anytime I would start to feel sorry for myself, I would be quickly reminded of all the blessings I had and how there were people that, had a lot tougher situation than I did.
Wow, that's amazing. Sound like you have pretty incredible parents.
Yeah, I did. I had incredible parents. And, I grew up in a time when people that had disabilities, was different than it is today. It was people were less visible, and there was not as much knowledge out there that there is now. So, but I've had a great life, and I'm often asked, would I change it? And I have to tell you honestly, I wouldn't change my hands and I wouldn't change my legs. I think this experience has taught me so much. It's given me a sense of gratitude for what I have. I think that it's helped me be empathetic to people in their own struggles, because I do believe, Lorna, that, everybody's challenged in some way. It's just the difference is some of those challenges you can't see.
That's so true.
Visible. But nevertheless, everybody faces challenges. The reason that was an important mindset for me is it gave me a feeling that I wasn't different than anyone else. See, my adversity was obvious, but other persons maybe less obvious. So therefore, I didn't spend a lot of time thinking, poor me. It's just part of the human condition. A message that I've been sharing with audiences for years is this, challenges are inevitable, but defeat is optional.
That's good.
Hanging on to that in life, I think, is so important, especially the times that we're living in today.
Oh, yeah. Challenge is inevitable. Defeat is optional.
Yep.
So you only lose if you let yourself lose.
That's right, because it really does come down to mindset and thinking. Something I always say to people when they go through challenges is never lose sight of the insight. The point is that everything we go through, we can benefit from, even the most difficult times in life, because it can remind us of our resiliency. It can help us discover our grit and our determination. It makes us more resourceful. So, again, you know, adversity is part of everybody's life.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I want to do, Lorna, when I'm out speaking is I want to give people encouragement. I'd like them to take a look at their thinking habits. What belief systems do they have that may not be serving them well? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you'd agree with this, that what ultimately holds us back in life are usually self-imposed limitations.
You're
Don't you
right.
think? It's usually
Yeah.
right up here. And
Mm-hmm.
so if I can encourage people to maybe change their perspective a bit, look at developing maybe a more positive mindset, because we all know that the better we choose to think, the better results we're going to get.
Yes.
I mean, you've experienced this in your life, and everybody watching has as well. If you believe that something is impossible,
Mm-hmm.
do you notice how hard you work to prove yourself right?
Yeah.
You do, because you want to be right. In the
Yeah.
same respect, if you believe you can do it, if it's possible, you're also going to work hard to prove yourself right.
Mm-hmm.
Because we very rarely, if ever, perform better than we believe we can. That's why I
Yeah.
think our belief system is absolutely crucial. That's the foundation. It doesn't matter our talent, our ability, or our opportunity. If our belief system is negative, then we're not going to be successful. So it all begins here. Now, it's not just about mindset,
Mm-hmm.
but that's the foundation.
Yeah.
At least that's how I see it and been my experience.
Yeah. You're definitely right. Because if you start out saying there's no way I can do that, you're not even going to take the first step.
Won't even take the first step. And what you do is when you're negative, or when you have that belief system that you can't do it, you're always looking for evidence to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, oh, I can't do it because it's too competitive, or I can't do it because, oh, it's the economy, or it's this, or it's that. So you're always looking for that. But
Yeah.
if you had that belief system that it's possible, again, you're going to look for evidence and resources to help prove yourself right.
Yeah. So do you think it's helpful, like, has it helped you to kind of just, if you started this, like, okay, this seems impossible, and maybe believing it's totally possible seems like a stretch, like, this could be possible. Like the first time you played tennis, I mean, they said, here's a racket, here's a ball, and then you're like, okay.
Right. So it's interesting. When I started playing tennis, because of my hands, the first issue is how was I going to grip the racket?
Mm-hmm.
So I walked into a tennis store, and Lorna, I found the holy grail of tennis rackets.
Oh
It
my
was a
God.
Wilson T2000. Now you're too young to remember this racket, but it had two parallel bars
Mm-hmm.
that were open from the head of the racket to the grip. So two parallel bars.
Uh-huh.
My right finger got stuck in between the two parallel bars.
Oh.
That's how I learned how to hold on to the racket.
You're like, I can do this.
So I played tennis in high school against able-bodied people, by the way. And the reason I say that is because that was a mindset for me that was really important.
Mm-hmm.
That, and not that I disagree with anybody who is disabled and competes against other disabled athletes. But keep in mind, when I was growing up, that didn't exist.
Yes.
There wasn't the Paralympics, none of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So played in high school, and then I played Division I tennis in college. Obviously, I got an artificial leg, so I'm not as fast as everybody else. My arms are short. I shorten the racket. So you look at these quote unquote disadvantages. But Lorna, here's what I learned. If I could hit the ball over the net one more time than the other person, then I would win the point.
Yes.
And it speaks to the importance of consistency. In every area of our life, if we can just be more consistent, that will ultimately win the day. It's not about being more perfect,
Mm-mm.
again, it's about that consistent effort. I have people visit me in my office and they'll say to me, Roger, you've been a speaker for 30 some years. I want to do what you do. and they'll spend the day with me. And at the end, they'll say, well, I thought that it was about speaking. And I said, well, yeah, that's the delivery of the message. But there's all these other things that you've got to do every single day to stay busy. And they're like, I can't believe after 30 years, you're still marketing. Really, it's like that. But I know that something I can control every day is I can control consistent effort.
Yes.
That's something that is totally within my control. It's completely volitional. Virus doesn't affect that. Economy doesn't affect that. Only I do. Because the virus, as you know, the coronavirus, something I would say, and I'm sure we were going to talk about that, I hope, in the interview, but
Oh, sure.
but the reason I wanted to bring it up is that, they call it the novel coronavirus.
As if it's like completely unique. No one's ever seen the virus before. Wow, where did this come from?
That's true. And I think the word novel is kind of interesting because the virus, I guess, itself is new, but challenges aren't new, Lorna.
And viruses aren't new.
Changes are new. Yeah, right. And so we have to not feel victimized from it. In other words, these are circumstances. And now how in these circumstances do we move forward? Everybody's heard this term, I want to go back to normal.
Yeah.
But let's look at that for just a second. I was writing a blog about this recently. When everything is normal, sometimes we're not paying attention. So when it's normal, maybe you're not paying attention to what you could improve. Maybe you're not paying attention to opportunities. Now it's got our attention.
Oh, yeah.
So that's good news because now we can do we can make those necessary changes. We can reinvent, re-energize, reimagine. That's kind of cool. So that's not at all to downplay the human tragedy of this virus, which has been awful, no question about it. However, the people that I think are going to transcend this are the ones that are going to be looking for the possibilities. They're not going to spend a lot of time dwelling on the circumstances, but they're going to be looking for ways to do the best they can with what they have. There's some people that have just said, that's it, I quit, I give up. This is too daunting. And I will tell you that I gave my last speech on March 1st, and I had a fairly full calendar for 2020. And in about 2 weeks, it vanished. And it was startling. I mean, I'd be the first to say it. It took my breath away. But then you have to dust yourself off. You have to tap into your grit and say, what am I going to do with this? So now I've always done quite a bit of coaching, so I'm continuing to do that. But I'm doing virtual presentations. I have a small little studio that I built in my office. And so, things are changing and plugging along. But along with that comes excitement because it's something new and it's something different. So one of the messages I've been sharing with audiences, we're not going back to normal.
Yeah.
It's better to let that go because that puts you in an idle state because you're waiting for things to get back. It's not going back. Normal's going to be ahead of us, not behind us.
Yeah.
So our mindset, I think, needs to be forward to normal.
Yeah.
What going forward is going to be the quote unquote normal.
Yeah. And what do we want to create? What was broken in the normal? Now's our chance to fix it, right?
Well, it's even like what you were talking about, your purpose. It's given people time to pause and ask themselves that question, what is my purpose?
Yeah.
what do I really want my life to be about? Now, sometimes when everything's normal, we don't have those deep thoughts.
No.
But
On
now,
autopilot, right?
right. And now we do. So um, there's been a lot of positives out of this, out of these challenging circumstances. I know for me, it's made me think a lot about my blessings. I mean, I've got an amazing family and I've got 4 kids and 3 grandkids, and I'm just so incredibly grateful. And I was grateful before, but what happens is when things change, you refocus,
Yeah.
and that's good.
Yeah. That is good. Because otherwise you stay asleep, you don't know what you're missing.
Of course, of course. So, but it's been a big change. I mean, there's no question. And but there's always been change, and there's going to continue to be change.
Mm.
So we can't we can't put our head in the sand and pretend that change doesn't exist, because it does. And
Mhm.
it's, I think, valuable for us to look at change as possibility, because it's new and different. And um, something I've been sharing as well is that there's been a lot of worry. And what I've been saying to people is, if we rely on wisdom, we can resist worry. Because what do we know about our past? That this too will go away.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. There's an old saying that goes like this: in times like these, it's helpful to remember there have been times like these.
Yeah. So I like that one.
Right. So
Hmm.
we could rely on wisdom. This too shall pass.
Hmm.
We're going to get through this. That's not just wishful thinking. We know that from our past. So we're going to choose how we go through it.
Is that kind of like your parents saying, this is all, you're going to choose how painful this is to you, like when they'd make you do something that you didn't want to do,
Of
or you go
course.
somewhere you didn't want to go. You're like, you're going to choose, your behavior is going to determine how painful this is for you.
Exactly. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, in so many ways we choose our pain, don't we? We can have the pain of discipline
Yeah.
and determination, or if we don't have that, then we have pain of regret and disappointment that we didn't try, that we didn't seize this opportunity.
And
Uh,
we don't know what could have happened, what we could have done
exactly,
positive out of it because we spent the whole time whining.
exactly, right. I have a couple people that I coach that have been through just incredible challenges and have created this remarkable life. And I'm always inspired by that, because it reminds me that, I know for me, and I bet this is true for people listening, oftentimes we underestimate ourselves and we overestimate others.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the reasons that I love to speak is I love to encourage people. In addition to that, I have a tremendous empathy for people that are struggling with self-doubt or lack of motivation or low self-esteem. And it's so gratifying for me to be able to share a message that I hope they can take with them. I mean, I certainly can't do it for them,
Yeah.
but all I can do is just share a few thoughts that hopefully is going to be resonate, and they can remember it, and hopefully apply it in their own lives and their work.
That's powerful. I mean, that's really all anyone can ask of any of us, right? To be a light and a way shower for others that are in a dark place.
No doubt. And so yeah, it's just really an amazing time. It really is. And You were talking about purpose. The thing I love about the idea of purpose is different than goals.
Yes.
And goals are cerebral, right?
Mm-hmm.
They require an intellectual commitment. But purpose requires an emotional commitment,
Yes.
something you wrap your heart around. And when you wrap your heart around something, then your disappointments never overwhelm your determination because you always go back to that emotional commitment. And when you're
Mm-hmm.
emotionally committed to something, in so many ways, you're really unstoppable because every day you wake up with that emotion that says, I'm going to do it. And here's the reasons why. And this is why it's important. So.
Wow. So that's so powerful right there. Making things an emotional commitment, not just, oh, it would be good if this, I'm going to set this as a goal. Like
Yeah,
really
goals.
what speaks to your heart, because what speaks to your heart is going to pull you along. What speaks to your head is going to be good as long as it doesn't get too tough.
Well, as a different metric.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a goal, right, it's usually, something that you can say, well, if I can improve this much, or if I can attain this. But when it's a sense of purpose, when you have that emotional commitment, it's just a different level of thinking, I think, and a different level of motivation. And goals are important, I mean, no
Yes.
doubt. But I think what allows us to raise that level of performance to really do big and bold things is really something you're emotionally committed to.
Wow. So that's powerful. Very powerful. So if somebody was sitting here going, okay, Roger, my life is upside down. I got, lost my job and they say it's not coming back and coronavirus. And you talk about, purpose and, how do I know it's really my purpose? How do I know that it speaks to my heart? What would you tell them?
Well, that's a great question. The first thing I would say, if there's people listening that are in that place, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would first ask them to take a look at the facts. Get in touch with what is the reality. Because when people are discouraged, they will say things like this: I always fail. This always happens to me. Things never work out. But if you have them rewind that and ask them to think about, do they always fail? No. Do tough things always happen to them and just them? No. So you see, it's first of all getting the facts.
Yeah. Questioning those little chatter.
Right. Then, once you get the facts, then you ask yourself, in moving forward, what am I really passionate about? And have them really open up this world of possibilities to them. There might be people that say, that's impossible. And my feeling about that is, don't worry about it, because that's their opinion.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's true.
Yes.
Right? So ask them to take a look at their life and open up this world of possibilities and say, well, what if I pursued this? Or what I would pursue if I pursued that? How would that make me feel?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that I could really get excited about, passionate about? And then ask them just to start exploring those avenues. Because I know a lot of people have lost jobs, Lorna. I mean, there's been a lot of
Mm-hmm.
economic pain. There's no question about it. That's the facts. But there's also opportunities that are opening up every day. There's going to be so many new jobs that are created because of this virus, different that we haven't even thought of yet. And so it's an awesome time really to be alive. It really is, because we're going to see so much from this, this recovery, and so I guess I hope that answered your question, but
No, that's
it's
good
just,
wisdom.
well, it's also, I run into people all the time. Maybe they're in an audience or whatever, and they'll say things like, we were just talking about, and they'll make this global statement about their life, and I always, in a in a loving and encouraging way, ask them to just sort of re-examine that. Like when people say, I'm not uniquely gifted.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Well, tell me about that. And then as they talk further, they start to uncover all these cool things they can do. And they're like, well, and they just sort of discount it. And then, so getting them to see what's possible, to see, when I speak to groups, it's not about me. It's not about my story. That's a backdrop. That's a backdrop, right? But my experience has helped me, I think, understand some of these principles of breaking through those barriers and encouraging people that they can perform at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
But don't use perfection as the measuring stick.
Yeah.
Consistency.
I like that. That's so good. That is so good. That is such a gem. Such a gem. Thank you so much, Roger, for sharing all of your wisdom.
Oh, well, Lauren, I've just enjoyed being with you. It's always such a pleasure, and I'm just honored that you'd include me.
Of course. And there was something that you had to share with the audience, right? A way they can stay connected with you?
Yeah, if they want to connect with me, they can go to my website, which is rogercrawford.com. They can also access my newsletter. I call it eSpire. I send it out at least once a month, sometimes a little more frequently, depending on what's going on in the world. And it's a short message and video that hopefully will offer people some inspiration and some hope and maybe some ideas and strategies. Because when I'm coaching people, for example, I take them through what I call an elevate coaching model, and I have them look at a couple of areas of their life. I have them look at expectations, because you very rarely perform better than you expect you can. So expectations. I have them look at execution, the ability to follow through. Have them look at expertise. How are they gifted?
Mm-hmm.
Have them look at living a life that's excuse-free. You decrease excuses, you increase results. That's how it works. We all know that.
Yes.
And then finally, it's endurance. Endurance, in my way of thinking, is a unique combination of persistence and patience. You got to have both.
Yes, you do.
To hang in there. You have to have both. Now, sometimes people they get the persistence part, but the patience is a little tougher. So trying to create some thinking and maybe some modeling that they can incorporate those. So when I'm coaching people, those are what I take them through. And the reason I brought that up is that's part of the eSpire newsletter as well. So,
well, we will have a big button below here for you to click that will take you to that, so you can take advantage of that. And so just once a month or a little bit more, it sounds like probably about the perfect timing when that comes and you're like, I needed this today, right?
Well, it's just been such an honor to do it. So, but I'm really thrilled we were able to connect today. Want to appreciate you plugging me into your tribe, to your audience, and thrilled to be part of it.
Well, it's been such a pleasure having you. Thank you so much, Roger.
You bet, Laura. Thank you.